Morning, colleagues.
Morning, Prime Minister Brown.
Okay.
Morning, Prime Minister.
Morning.
Members and advisors, we are going to go live. Good morning, everyone, and greetings wherever you are in our current union and around the world. Welcome to the handing over ceremony for the change in chairmanship of the Monetary Council. I now invite us to listen to the national song of Montserrat.
Oh, Montserrat, proud motherland, your children raise your standards high in toil and tears to serve you well. The emerald jewel from God's hand. Oh, Montserrat, by nature blessed, to you your children sing. Come well, oh woe, come friend of foe, to you your people cling. Rise up and make our country great, with art and skill and sacrifice, with mass and drums we celebrate, triumphant masters of all faith. Oh, Montserrat, by nature blessed, to you your children sing. Come well, oh woe, come friend or foe, to you your people cling. We sing our land in harmony,
Brother Chalmers for a wonderful rendition of the national song of Montserrat. I ask you to remain standing, and we now invite Minister Charles Kernan to invoke God's blessings on our proceedings.
Honor and we exalt your matchless name. We ask God that your wisdom and your understanding will prevail upon this meeting. And as this turn over, we ask God and the continuance of this term in office. We ask, Lord, that you will bless the Premier as he takes over and continue to guide and direct. In the name of Jesus, we pray.
Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you very much. You may be seated, everyone. Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance of St. Kitts and Nevis, and the outgoing Chairman of the Monetary Council, Honorable Joseph Easton Farrell, Premier and Minister of Finance of Montserrat and incoming Chairman of the Monetary Council, other members of the Monetary Council here present, Mr. Trevor Brathwaite, Deputy Governor, Ms. Tracy Poulias, Chief Director, board members and advisors, ECCB management and staff, members of the media, citizens, residents, and friends of our currency union. Greetings. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome each of you to the handing over ceremony to mark the change in chairmanship of the Monetary Council. Today, the chairmanship of the council passes from the council member for St. Kitts and Nevis to the council member for Montserrat. I wish to thank the outgoing chairman for his highly consequential stewardship in an exceptionally difficult year. During his tenure, the council made several weighty decisions on the Program of Action for Recovery, Resilience, and Transformation, the revision of the fiscal anchor, support for vaccine rollout in member countries, the introduction of policy sessions on special thematic areas, and the executive leadership of the bank. Article 7.2 of the ECCB agreement states, and I quote, "The Council shall meet not less than twice each year to receive from the Governor the bank's report on monetary and credit conditions and to provide directives and guidelines on matters of monetary and credit policy to the bank and for such other purposes as are prescribed under this agreement," end of quote. The Monetary Council convenes at a time of severe turbulence in our region and around the world. Frankly spoken, the pandemic is far from over, and we are learning day by day to live with this plague called the COVID-19 pandemic. In the April 2021 edition of the World Economic Outlook, the International Monetary Fund projected a strong rebound in global economic growth of 6% for 2021 and 4.4% for 2022. However, these forecasts are subject to significant uncertainty and are predicated on efforts to contain COVID-19. The development of new variants and the incidence of rising cases in many parts of the world demonstrate the ongoing challenge with economic forecasts during this period. In respect of the ECCU, our most recent estimates indicate that the ECCU economy is likely to have contracted by 17.17% last year, which is even worse than the 14% previously reported, and almost 3 times higher than the contraction that immediately followed the global financial crisis. Already this year, we've had the eruption of the La Soufrière volcano in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the passage of Hurricane Elsa, which impacted several of our member countries. Now, given the stranglehold the pandemic has on our vital tourism sector, the ECCB forecasts a gradual recovery for the ECCU of around 1% in 2021 and around 7% in 2022. It is evident that our economic recovery is directly tied to vaccine rollout programs in our source markets and in our currency union. In this regard, I commend our member governments for their proactive and tireless efforts to secure vaccines to protect lives and position our region for recovery in the shortest possible time. That said, we are observing significant vaccine hesitancy. This situation presents a real threat to our lives and livelihoods. Evidently, while the choice to take a vaccine is personal, the consequences are not. None of us lives on an island all by our lonesome. Indeed, our world is highly interconnected, and travel and tourism are our most dominant export and livelihood. Consequently, it is in our enlightened self-interest to protect ourselves and our countries. And so today, I make a special appeal to my fellow citizens and residents. Do not hesitate or procrastinate. Please vaccinate. Now, on July 6th, the ECCB celebrated 45 years of stability, with the EC dollar being pegged to the US dollar 2.7 to 1. We hail the vision and decision of the founders and framers of our monetary union and that particular decision to peg. That decision has stood the test of time. Indeed, with prudent management, we have built up a stock of foreign reserves which acts as an insurance policy in times of stress and adversity, as is currently the case. Even with the largest growth shock on record, our EC dollar remains strong. As of last Friday, July 16th, the backing in foreign reserves was 95.9%, well above the 60% mandated by law. A strong and stable dollar brings several benefits to the people of our region, including confidence for investors and depositors and relatively low inflation. I now make a call for innovation. Professor Mariana Mazzucato, a tireless advocate for state-led innovation and author of the highly acclaimed book, The Entrepreneurial State, asserts, and I quote, "We should be investing where the returns are greatest, that is, innovation." I completely concur. Here at the ECCB, we are resolute in our pursuit on innovation that confers benefits on the people of the ECCU and helps deliver shared prosperity. Our recently launched award-winning digital currency, Dcash, attests. We invite everyone to adopt a growth mindset and join us in our relentless pursuit of innovation for transformation. Some exciting possibilities are in front of us, but we must stand tall, stand together, and seize them. And now I make a call for collective action. The pandemic has occasioned yet again a beautiful display of regional solidarity. Whether it is sharing credit allocations, vaccines, or emergency supplies for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, member countries have rallied together and helped each other out. Indeed, this has been an indispensable and inspiring feature of our collaboration in the last year. As we press forward with implementation of the Program of Action for Recovery, Resilience, and Transformation, I do make a special appeal to member
Recording
countries
in progress.
for an accelerated enactment of our legislative agenda. This agenda is central to our transformation. We must give ourselves a chance to survive and thrive in a global economy that often treats our small countries as invisible and of no consequence. In conclusion, I hail our council members for their proactive actions which you have taken to protect lives and secure livelihoods, and your strong demonstration of regional solidarity. I once again applaud our frontline warriors, healthcare professionals, security forces, and all essential workers for their tireless contributions to the effective containment of the virus. To our citizens and residents, I know it has been and is a long and winding road, but please do not let down your guard. This is our new normal. For those still undecided, I respectfully urge, do not hesitate. Please vaccinate. And now I conclude my oft-repeated declaration. As a region, we cannot change our history. We cannot change our geography. But collectively, we can elevate our development trajectory by innovation and collective action. And so, with the help of Almighty God, let us go forth together to build, make more resilient, and transform our currency union for the shared prosperity of all who live, work, and invest here. I thank you. And with that, those are my opening remarks. I am now very pleased to introduce the outgoing chairman of the Monetary Council, who really needs no introduction. And so I am pleased to give you Dr. the Honorable Timothy Sylvester Harris, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance of St. Kitts and Nevis, and outgoing chairman of the Monetary Council. Prime Minister, over to you.
Thank you very much, Governor Antoine. I want to acknowledge the Honorable Joseph Easton Farrell, Premier and Minister of Finance of Montserrat, and the incoming Chairman of the Monetary Council, colleague members of the Monetary Council, and of course, the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Mr. Trevor Brathwaite, Ms. Tracy Polius, Chief Director, Policy, the board members and advisors to the bank, the ECCB management and staff, members of media, our fellow citizens and residents who are tuning in. I bring you, of course, greetings from the beautiful Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. 1 year ago, I assumed the chairmanship of the Monetary Council during a virtual ceremony made necessary on account of the COVID-19 pandemic. At that time, our region and our economies were fighting the impacts of the COVID-19 virus. With regret, the COVID-19 pandemic is still with us. As many countries are finding, we must now adjust ourselves to live with COVID-19 for some time to come. The technology has been our best friend, and it has allowed us to meet virtually, addressing matters of concern to our citizens and residents in the currency union. COVID-19 may have stopped us from meeting in person, but it has not stopped this Monetary Council from delivering the strong monetary policies and real financial relief in hard times for the people of the currency union. Fellow citizens and residents of the ECCU, COVID-19 has been the single most devastating force to impact our economies collectively and in the history of the currency union. The 2020 annual report of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, reveals that our Caribbean region was especially hard hit by declines in foreign direct investment. For our OECS sub-region, foreign direct investment inflows declined in Montserrat by 95%, in Antigua and Barbuda by 84.2%, in Anguilla by 79.2%, in St. Lucia by 51.3%, in St. Kitts and Nevis by 49%, St. Vincent and the Grenadines by 35.5%, and in Dominica by 22.6%. Our currency union, which is heavily dependent on tourism, recorded the worst contraction on record, and we heard the governor this morning indicated that that is a negative growth of 17% across the currency union. No ECCU member country was spared from the ravages of COVID-19. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we are encouraged by recent estimates of the International Monetary Fund that St. Kitts and Nevis's economy is set to rebound with a growth rate of some 10% in 2022. To date, the ECCU has recorded over 10,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 146 deaths due to COVID. Even now, some countries are grappling with the new waves of infections and the entry of new variants in member states which are more transmissible and deadly. On behalf of the Monetary Council, I wish to convey deepest sympathies to all those who have lost loved ones to COVID-19 at home and in the diaspora. The virus continues to make its own rules, and we in the currency union will remain vigilant and continue to adapt to this counter and contain this disease. When I assumed the chairmanship of the Monetary Council in July last year, the health and well-being of our people and our economies were the top priorities of the Monetary Council. As the virus ravaged the world, we as a council had to find a delicate balance. Evidently, there is an ongoing tension between the protection of lives and the protection of livelihoods. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have been implementing a life-first strategy where we do everything we can to save lives. For us, if there is no life, there is no livelihood to protect or defend. So we accept as a truism that the health of our nation is the wealth of our nation. Without a healthy and productive workforce, our economic growth will be anemic at best and our development will be stymied. The reality is that without a safe and healthy population, we have no prospects of a sustainable, inclusive, job-rich economic recovery. Last year at this time, we were hoping and praying for a vaccine. Today, our prayer has been answered, and the wait is over with respect to the vaccine. I want to join with the governor in urging all adults in our currency union to get vaccinated soonest. Vaccination is our most powerful tool in the fight against COVID-19. Indeed, it is the only pathway to a stronger and safer future. Indeed, we must make every effort to prevent further spread and the development of more contagious and deadlier variants of this dreaded invisible virus. Our surest way of doing this is through vaccination. In February, the Monetary Council approved up to $1 million of support to the vaccine rollout programs, which commenced in February in most member states. Our regional solidarity was on full display as we help each other by sharing our vaccines allotment, recognizing that we were in it together. No member state, we understood, is safe until all member states are safe. Relatively speaking, the currency member states have managed the situation well. In respect to the vaccine rollout, the situation, of course, varies widely among member countries, but more than 26% of the ECCB population has received a first dose, and I'm advised nearly 18% is now fully vaccinated. In the case of St. Kitts and Nevis, 71% of the target population to be vaccinated had received a first dose, and almost 59% of the target population is now fully vaccinated. I commend the citizens and residents who have stepped forward and are playing their part in this fight. However, our work is far from over. Each of us must ask ourselves, have I done all I can to protect myself, my family, my country? I urge everyone to join the fight by getting vaccinated so that we can successfully save lives and allow our economies to recover for the benefit of all our people. Our member governments have toiled long and hard, not only to secure vaccines, which are still scarce, but to provide critical relief and support for our people and businesses. In this regard, St. Kitts and Nevis provided a package valued in the region of $120 million during 2020. Very recently, my government has assessed the situation on the ground here in St. Kitts and Nevis and announced another stimulus package which features, among other elements, an income support program estimated at $15 million to support vulnerable families and individuals who continue to be unemployed since March of last year as a result of the pandemic. In the midst of the pandemic, another disaster struck our currency union when the La Soufrière volcano in St. Vincent and the Grenadines erupted early in April this year. It was heartening to witness the solidarity extended to our brothers and sisters who directly faced this threat in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In addition to the individual contributions of member countries, such as St. Kitts and Nevis, Dominica, and Grenada, which contributed $1 million, the Monetary Council authorized the ECCB to provide a $1 million grant to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. To their credit, the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines have demonstrated great fortitude in living through the hardships of the pandemic and rising from the ashes of a volcanic eruption. I commend our member states of the Union who rallied with St. Vincent and the Grenadines and gave support in tangible ways in accordance with their capacity to do so. I want to now turn my attention to reporting to you on the progress made over the last year and some policy agenda matters during my tenure. Starting with monetary stability, the EC dollar remains as stable as ever with a robust backing. This is no easy feat, and given the unprecedented forces against us this past year, I want to congratulate all members for the work they did. A strong currency ensures a strong ECCU. In accordance with the ECCB agreement, the central bank extended credit to some member governments to assist with their responses to the pandemic. With prudent management of these lending activities, the currency union's pool of reserves for backing the currency remain above 95% throughout my tenure, and well above the 60% statutory minimum. Such measures show the power that strong monetary policy can have and the real meaningful benefits it can deliver to the people in the currency union. Turning to the matter of financial stability, the bank continues its strong collaboration with the banking community through the Loan Repayment Deferral Program. This initiative has delivered substantial relief to the households and businesses across the Union during a very difficult time. I'm advised that at its peak in September 2020, almost 25,000 loan facilities valued at a whopping $5.2 billion benefited from this program. After the initial 6 months period, this program was extended by an additional 12 months to September 2021. The matter of ongoing support to the financial sector is one which the Council should keep in focus. The ECCB, as lender of last resort, must be diligent and seek to sustain a number of discretionary actions that ease the burden on our people. Given the mercurial nature of the COVID-19 pandemic, I fear that the work of this Council in this regard is by no means over. We thank the banking community for its support to our economies through this initiative and the central bank for the requisite regulatory support. The Council approved a proposal for the development of an optimal regulatory framework for the financial sector, and this proposal benefited from extensive consultation with stakeholders and partners across our regulatory space. Technical work is now underway to create a regional standard-setting body for the entire financial system. On growth and competitiveness, the bank made important strides also. In October of 2020, the Monetary Council approved a program of action for recovery, resilience, and transformation of our economies. PART, the acronym, is a comprehensive, multi-sectoral, 3-year program, and it lays out practical initiatives on 4 pillars: financial stability, fiscal and debt sustainability, resilient and inclusive growth, and payments modernization and digital transformation. PART requires coordination because the implementation of different components is at the national and regional levels. That said, implementation has commenced, and I encourage member governments to hasten action on the various initiatives so that our individual countries and the currency union as a whole can truly benefit from our joint actions. PART will ensure that our ECCU remains strong and robust to future shocks and threats. On the 31st of March 2021, the ECCB became the first monetary union in the world to issue a central bank digital currency styled the cash. The cash was launched on the 31st March 2021 in St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, and St. Lucia. At this juncture, I applaud the Governor and his team on this historic feat. Indeed, this innovation is already attracting international acclaim. Only last month, for example, the ECCB received the Central Bank FinTech and RegTech Global Awards 2021 prize for Central Bank Digital Currency Infrastructure. DCash is just one of the initiatives under the Payments Modernization and Digital Transformation pillar that is being pursued by the bank. Nonetheless, it is an important enabler in our quest to build out a digital economy in the currency union. It is certainly encouraging news to learn that the outlook for the global economy still remains positive. We must then consider what this means for us here in the OECS. To my mind, an important question that all citizens and residents of the currency union must ask ourselves is, what role will each of us play in ensuring that our region successfully recovers from the deleterious impact of the pandemic? As we look at the prospects for economic recovery, it would be even more important for the public sector, the private sector, labor and civil society to work together to plan and implement recovery strategies that will help us to build back better. We must act quickly so that our region is among those regions of the world that experience a strong and sustainable recovery over the short to medium term. Beyond recovery from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is the need to rise to the challenge of transformation of our region. In accordance with the ECCB agreement, the central bank is mandated, and I quote, to actively promote through means consistent with its other objectives the economic development of the territories of the participating governments, end of quote. In this regard, the bank has a critical role to play in assisting our currency union to achieve success in transforming our economic landscape. I therefore challenge the bank to strive towards fulfilling this mandate enshrined in the agreement established by our visionary founding fathers. As I conclude my tenure, I wish to acknowledge the tremendous support provided by my colleagues of the Monetary Council throughout a particularly difficult year for the currency union and indeed for the world. They answered my call for renewed thinking and renewed commitment to the fundamental principles of regional cooperation and solidarity. I also wish to thank the members of the Board of Directors for their stewardship throughout this period. And I commend again the Governor of the ECCB and his team for their dedication, innovation, and steadfast commitment to the transformation agenda for our region. Much was accomplished and advanced during the last year, and much more still remains to be done. I was pleased too that the Monetary Council was able to find a suitable candidate to fill the post of Deputy Governor. So on behalf of the Monetary Council, I welcome Dr. Valder Henry and thank Mr. Trevor Brathwaite, outgoing Deputy Governor, for his long and meritorious service. I now wish my successor, the Honorable Premier of Mountstrat, Joseph Farrell, God's favor, and pledge my full support as he assumes the chairmanship for the next year. May God bless each of us, and indeed may he continue to bless and protect our beloved currency union. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Harris, our outgoing chairman. And you can all observe from that report card that it was a very active and productive year. And again, we thank you for your leadership throughout this period, Prime Minister and outgoing chair. Very busy indeed. And now, ladies and gentlemen, before we introduce the incoming chairman, we have an instrumental from Beres, Amer, and Friends. I almost said Beres Hammond, but I caught it in time. Beres, Amer, and Friends. And now I ask you to enjoy. Thank you, Beres, Emma, and friends, for that wonderful rendition, which we thoroughly enjoyed. And it still gives us a flavor of the Emerald Isle, even though we cannot be physically in Montserrat today. So thank you very much again for your presentation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media and all gathered, it gives me great pleasure. In fact, I'm delighted to introduce the incoming chairman of the Monetary Council, the Honorable Joseph Easton Farrell, Premier and Minister for Montserrat. Premier Farrell, over to you, please.
Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance for St. Kitts and Nevis, and outgoing chair of the Monetary Council, fellow members of the Monetary Council, Mr. Timothy Antoine, Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, honorable colleagues of the Montserrat Legislative Assembly, Mr. Trevor Brathwaite, Deputy Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Ms. Tracy Polius, Chief Director, Policy, ECCB, board members and advisors, members and staff of the ECCB, invited guests, members of the media, sisters and brothers in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, good morning. On behalf of my government and the people of Montserrat, I am particularly delighted to extend greetings to all of you from the beautiful Emerald Isle of the Caribbean. Once again, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic is from convening in person. Nonetheless, we are grateful for the digital technology that permits us to convene and advance the important work of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. Today, it is with a great sense of responsibility I accept the mantle of chairmanship from Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance for St. Kitts and Nevis. I wish to express my gratitude to and respect for Prime Minister Harris, who steered the Monetary Council through what was undoubtedly one of the most difficult years in our 38-year history. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. At this moment, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is dealing with the devastation and fallout of the La Soufrière volcano. Montserrat fully understands, given our experience of living under the shadow of an active volcano for some 26 years. In fact, it was just 2 days ago that a public holiday was given as a day of prayers to mark the 26th anniversary of volcanic eruption of the Soufrière Hills volcano here in Montserrat. From the Emerald Isle to the gems of the Antilles, we express our strong support and solidarity as the case in Montserrat, St. Vincent too will rise from the ashes. Brothers and sisters, the COVID-19 plague has already claimed 146 plus lives in the ECC Union, has completely disrupted our lives and livelihood. Please help us to arrest this grievous trend. Through scientific innovation, support by an unprecedented level of international support and coordination, we now have safe, effective vaccine. And optimum uptake to these vaccines are our best defense against the virus. And therefore, key to fast-tracking our return to normality, we must protect ourselves, our loved ones, and our economies. I therefore urge everyone to get vaccinated if you haven't yet done so. Our central bank's response to the pandemic has been proactive and responsive. I recognize the swift action of the central bank in developing the program of action for recovery and transformation of the ECCB economies. It is a bold and ambitious plan that charts our recovery and responses to our economies and transformation. In this regard, I hail the determined efforts of the Governor Outgoing, and his team for charting the course during this difficult period. I now wish to articulate the policy priorities during my tenure as chairman. The policy agenda will encompass monetary stability, financial stability, food and nutrition security, renewable energy, innovation and digital transformation, advocacy on issues impacting small island states. Monetary Council. Since 1976, the exchange rate pegged of US $1 to EC 270 has provided a level of confidence and stability, even in the most disruptive and uncertain times. The Monetary Council will continue to support the strength and stability of the EC dollar. Of necessity, that includes support for the enactment of fiscal resilience framework in member countries. Under our financial stability work plan, as part of the program of action, the bank will press forward with plans to establish an optimal regulatory framework for the entire financial sector. That work includes addressing gaps in the legislative framework to support robust supervision, improving consumer protection, and establishing a regional standards setting body to ensure a level playing field across the currency union. On the broader matter of legislation, I commit to encouraging my fellow council members to accelerate the passage of legislation in their respective countries. Food and nutrition. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, May 2021 saw the biggest surge in monthly food prices since September 2011. Moreover, food prices are forecast to increase over the coming years, further threatening food security in our region. To enhance our resilience as a region, we must accelerate, as a matter of urgency, our efforts to improve food and nutrition security and contain food prices. To that end, we must work assiduously to attain our goal of reducing our 2019 food import bill of EC $1.6 billion by a 25% reduction by 2023. The cost savings of $400 million will rebound the benefits of the people in respect of their health and will also support our objectives to maintaining a strong EC dollar. Renewable energy. COVID-19 have overshadowed the existential threat of climate change. But make no mistake, that threat is real. It is true that our small countries contribute very little to global carbon footprints. Still, we take seriously our moral obligation to be part of the solution. The Monetary Council endorses the Central Bank's Climate Resilience Initiative. Indeed, the Council fully supports the bank's collaboration with the World Bank to establish a regional renewable energy infrastructure facility to support investment in renewable energy in our currency union. This initiative has the potential to assist countries in the meet their national determined contributions and will be critical if we are to triple the share of renewable in our energy mix during the decade of action. Innovation and digital transformation. The COVID-19 pandemic has confirmed that governments too can be agile and innovative. For example, in May of this year, Montserrat launched a WhatsApp live certificate qualification service to allow our pensioners living abroad to be able to present themselves via WhatsApp video calls for their life certificates, resulting in significant cost savings and more efficient service. The chairman of the Monetary Council, I wish to underscore the importance of the Caribbean Digital Transformation Program. In Montserrat, we have recently enhanced the resilience of our internet infrastructure with the reintroduction of a fiber optic service. At this juncture, I wish to laud the governor and his team on this historic achievement of launching the digital currency Dcash. Following a successful launch of the pilot in 4 of our 8 OECD member states early this year, I am pleased to note that Dcash will be rolled out in the remaining 4 territories, including Montserrat, by September 2021. This innovation facilitates cross-border payments within the ECC Union and opens up more opportunities for e-commerce. Advocacy on issues impacting small island states. Ladies and gentlemen, as small island states, we often feel invisible and almost powerless, but we are neither. Under my chairmanship, we will continue to tradition of boldly advocating for small states issues on the national stage. The 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP26, is scheduled to take place in Glasgow, Scotland later this year. This will be a prime opportunity to press the international community to make natural disaster a clause, and perhaps even pandemic clause, standard in new debt contracts for small island states, who are least responsible for, yet most impacted by climate change. We will also continue to advocate for vulnerability to an implicit criterion in determining access to concessional financing rather than per capita income. In conclusion, colleagues, brothers and sisters, we are at an inflection point in the history of the currency union. The foundation we lay today will determine our trajectory for years to come. Charting our way forward in this perfect storm is a weighty task. However, throughout this pandemic, our region has demonstrated a strong sense of solidarity. Long may this continue. With the help of Almighty God, the support of the entire Monetary Council, the Central Bank, and the people of our region, I am confident that we will succeed. May God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier Farrell, who has now assumed the chairmanship of our Monetary Council. And together with God's help, we will indeed succeed. My closing remarks will be extremely brief. I do want to take a moment to thank the people of Montserrat who are working and have worked to support us through this particular program. Again, we would love to have been in Montserrat to celebrate this moment with you, but I do want to thank the Premier and his team, the Office of the Premier, for the support with respect to the arrangements. I don't know who did the bouquet, but it's a lovely bouquet, very colorful. It should easily achieve a national award, I think, but I don't know anything about flowers, but it looks very good. And I do also want to recognize the members of the National Assembly Executive Council who are present and who joined Premier Farrell today. I do also wish to thank our team in Montserrat, Ms. Angela Estwick and the entire team, our agency office. Of course, our team here at ECCB, Acklin and the entire group, Acklin Blaze and the entire group, and everyone associated with the preparation for today and the broadcast of our handing over ceremony. Thank you. Let us continue to stay together, and may God crown our efforts with success. And with that, I will invite us to close out with a continuation and completion of the instrumental which we heard earlier. I think we have a final segment of that, and that in fact will be the final segment of this ceremony. So Montserrat, you get the last word. We go out in cultural style, and we now ask you to enjoy. Thrive in this very difficult environment? And what else can we do to support our small businesses now and going forward? These are some of the questions that we wish to explore with an expert panel over the next 90 minutes. I want to thank you for joining us, but before I introduce the panel, some housekeeping announcements. This dialogue is being streamed live on the ECCB Connects Facebook page. And of course, the Zoom session is open for those who wish. We simply ask that you keep your microphones muted throughout to ensure the quality of the broadcast. Attendees in the Zoom room are invited to submit their comments in the chat box and their questions in the Q&A box. One of my colleagues is monitoring our Facebook page and will pull questions from our Facebook page and forward to me so that we can pose them to our panel. If for whatever reason you are disconnected during this dialogue, we simply ask you to kindly reconnect using the link that has been provided. The recording of this dialogue will be on our ECCB Connects Facebook page, as well as on our YouTube channel, also called ECCB Connects. Now, we will open up the audience poll from now to allow early voting. And if for whatever reason you need to leave before the dialogue ends, you would have an opportunity to cast your vote, to have your voices heard in this particular dialogue. How do you do that? Well, for those of you who are regulars now, you know we use something called Mentimeter. And by the way, it's a free app, so you can always download it. You can use it for a dialogue, and you can use it for your church, school, community, whatever. It's a great tool to use, especially in this time. So you go to www.menti.com, and the code today is 154-13416. I repeat, the code today is 154-13416. So you can go in even now and you can answer. There are 3 questions in our poll today. So check it out as we go. This dialogue is also being carried live on partner radio stations throughout our currency union. In Anguilla, Radio Anguilla, Cool FM Radio, and Class FM Radio. In Antigua and Barbuda, Nice FM and ABS Radio. In the Commonwealth of Dominica, Q95, Carry FM, DBS Radio at 7 p.m. this evening. In Grenada, We FM, Classic FM, and Sister Isles Radio in Carriacou. In Montserrat, there's Radio Montserrat ZJB. In St. Christopher and Nevis, Win FM, Vaughan Radio, which is on Nevis, Freedom FM, and ZIZ Television will broadcast at 1:30 p.m. today. In St. Lucia, Rhythm FM and W Vent. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, NBC Radio, Nice Radio, We FM Radio. And again, I want to thank all of our broadcast partners for continuing this collaboration with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. Those then are housekeeping announcements, and I would now love to introduce our panel. We have 3 expert panelists today, and I'm delighted that they have given their time to share with us today. First up is Dr. Sylvia Dunnett. Dr. Dunnett is a lead private sector specialist in the Competitiveness, Technology, and Innovation Division at the Inter-American Development Bank. But I think she's better known as the Executive Director of Compete Caribbean. She has been the Executive Director of Compete Caribbean since 2012. And for many people in our business community, Compete Caribbean is now a household name. Dr. Dunnett is a researcher in small business, and she holds a PhD in economic development and regional planning from MIT. Dr. Dunnett, welcome.
Thank you so much, Governor Antoine. I'm delighted to be here with you today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Next up is Ms. Shadell Nayak Compton. Shadell, as I would probably refer to her on the panel, is the owner and managing director of Belmont Estate, a fully functional historic plantation and premier agritourism attraction in Grenada. She is a visionary that transformed Belmont Estate from a traditional farm to a unique business model, merging heritage, commerce, organic agriculture, tourism, food manufacturing, environmental and community responsibility into a single viable enterprise. Shadell is actually an attorney by profession, but found the need to get into business. And of course, we are happy that she did. She wears many hats, but one of her hats at the moment is that she is the deputy chair of the Grenada Tourism Authority. I have to confess, and I have to make full disclosure, that Belmont Estate is one of my favorite spots in Grenada. And having not been for the last 18 months, I very much miss that opportunity. Hopefully that will come not too long from now. Shadell, morning and welcome.
Good morning, Governor, and thank you very much for having me on this morning. I'm happy to be here to represent Grenada and Belmont Estate, and happy to know that Belmont Estate remains close to your heart. We look forward to welcoming you back sometime soon. And good morning to my co-panelists and to all our participants and to the listening audience.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shadell. Next up we have, and I'm very pleased that we have a complete panel, gender balance is always important, Mr. Ashton Ferron, who hails from Antigua and Barbuda. Mr. Ferron is the CEO and co-founder of the technical research and consultancy firm MCAT Innovations, Inc., a firm focused on enhancing business to consumer experiences through the use of technology. He is a so-called technopreneur, a marriage between technology and entrepreneurship. Mr. Ferron has led several applications, including ticketing, mobile ticketing, events management, Fruby, a fintech startup aimed at helping small businesses to go online. He's also an adjunct instructor at the UWI Open Campus, among other things. He holds a master's in digital solutions and a bachelor's in computer networking. Mr. Ferron, it's a real pleasure to have you on board. Welcome.
Good morning. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with such an esteemed panel. Thank you for having me.
Great. Very, very good. And so what you will see, colleagues, guests, visitors, friends, is that we have people on this panel who actually run businesses and who support businesses. And I think we're very fortunate to have them on board today. And so that is the introduction of our panel. For those of you who are new or just a refresher, we do these dialogues in 3 segments. The first is a segment where I pose some questions to the panel, moderator to the panel. Second, we check in on our audience poll to see where we're at and how we're doing. And then thirdly, we have our Q&A, where we actually go to the questions and we try and field as many questions as possible. So again, thanks for joining us today. This is ECCB Digital Dialogues. Our focus today, pandemic and small businesses. I'm Timothy Antwine, Governor of the ECCB. Now to our questions. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Dunnett, of the Compete Caribbean. You have done extensive research on the impact of pandemic on SMEs. In fact, I'm advised that you've done 2 surveys on this impact. And I'd like you to share some of the key findings of these surveys. Please.
Thank you. I'd be very, very glad to do so. So just so that I can tell people watching us from Compete Caribbean, to give a little bit of background, is a program that is financed by 4 donors, which are the Inter-American Development Bank, the United Kingdom's Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, the Caribbean Development Bank, and the Government of Canada. And this program is a program that is focused on providing technical assistance to support the private sector in the Caribbean. When last year, we were all hit by this unexpected event of the pandemic, we decided to perform a survey twice. One early in the pandemic in April 2020, and one much later in the pandemic, December 2020. These surveys that I'm talking about are like voluntary surveys that we disseminated online through Facebook, through our communications channels, and so on. and thus are indicative surveys. They're not necessarily representative of an economy per se, such as another survey that we also did, and that the data became available just last week, just that, we're still examining it. And I can tell you about that later. What I want to tell you is about the two surveys we conducted last year, where we were trying to capture what was the impact of the pandemic on the region's private sector. And we conducted the survey in 13 countries, the 6 Eastern Caribbean countries that we cover, plus it would be CARICOM minus Haiti. Those are the 13 countries that we covered. And we had, I'm going to talk about the December survey because that's the most recent. We had 196 businesses responding throughout these 13 countries, many of them in the Eastern Caribbean. And we have, what we consider to be a well represented sample in terms of economic sectors, because most of the businesses were in service, and then, there was a large part in agriculture and agro-processing, and then we had, a smaller part in manufacturing. So what was the impact? What did we see to be the impact of COVID in December of last year? So we, 80.6% of the businesses in December reported to have had a negative impact by COVID. That is a little smaller than the negative impact reported in April, which was like 85%, but it's still very sizable. And 11.7% of the businesses said that it had actually had a positive impact, which is also interesting, no? That even though it's a minority of firms, there are some firms where COVID had a positive impact. 60.7% of the businesses said that the pandemic, and especially the lockdowns, reduced demand for their products, while 18% had an increased demand for their products. What about production? So nearly 50% of the businesses that responded had a reduction in production last year. 11.7% had an increase in production. What about exports? So most of the firms that responded to the survey did not export. So nearly 60% do not export. But of that remaining 40% that did export, 2/3 of them, they experienced a reduced demand for their export products. What about sourcing inputs? So 32% of the firms experienced a price increase in terms of their inputs that they imported, and nearly 20% an interruption of their supply chains. What about accessing national raw materials? So 30.6% of the firms had difficulties accessing even national raw materials during the lockdown and during the COVID year. What about international raw materials? Again, nearly a third of the firms had difficulties accessing international raw materials to produce. Most of the businesses, let's say nearly half of the businesses did not terminate any contracts of their employees due to COVID, which I think is very positive. But the other half had to terminate, between 0 and 50% or more than 50% of their employees. In fact, 16.3% of the businesses terminated more than half of their workforce, which is, of course, very worrisome. In terms of teleworking, what we could see in the region, and this is perhaps due to the strong presence of the tourism and services sector, is that nearly 60% of the businesses had no employees teleworking, okay? And then the other 40% had between, 10% or more than half of the employees teleworking. I think the most interesting aspect, however, of this survey comes down to what type of support were businesses able to get during this period. So 64.3% of the firms actually did not apply for assistance to help their businesses cope. And 88.8% of the businesses, and nearly 90%, did not receive any support. It may be that they didn't apply for it to help keep employees in their businesses after the end of the lockdown due to COVID. So by December, nearly 40% of the firms said that their business had not yet recovered from the crisis, and 38.27% that their sector had not recovered from the crisis. So anyhow, this is what I wanted to share with you. And I think that Governor Antoine, like we were talking about the impact of COVID on OECD, which I'm sure that in many respects, maybe the magnitudes are different because of the composition of businesses in the Caribbean. But I think definitely, with the Caribbean region situation of high debt levels before COVID and so on, certainly maybe the resources to support businesses were more difficult to come about during the COVID situation.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Donert. So there we have it, very authoritative findings on the impact on the small business, the business community. It's not just small. So thanks for that perspective. So I'd now like to go to our business owners, and I'll start with you, Ms. Compton. Shadel, how have you responded how have you adjusted your business model to this very disruptive period? Just unmute before you begin. Right.
Excuse me, I'm sorry about that, Governor. Yes, thank you again. So there has been a lot of adjustment and strategizing during this time, but just permit me to give a little bit of an overview of our business for context. So as you know, the business is called Belmont Estate, and it's located in the rural north of Grenada. And we are primarily an organic farm, but we have diversified into agritourism and cottage style and craft food manufacturing. So on the farming side, we farm mostly cocoa, nutmeg, spices, fruits and vegetables. On the tourism side, our services and products include various tours of the facilities and various experiences. We have an open style family restaurant serving delectable local cuisine. We offer educational and cultural activities and special events like weddings and so on. And on the manufacturing side, which we started only in recent years, we manufacture kosher and organic certified dark, white and milk chocolates and a line of cocoa products. We also do a line of goat cheeses, spices, teas, pickles, condiments, and they're all single estate products made from organic produce that we grow right on the estate. So as of 2019, before the pandemic, on the revenue side, the chocolate manufacturing accounted for 14% of our revenue, the farm 30%, and tourism 56%. So we are heavily tourism based. And not only our core tourism activities like the restaurant and tours, but also our farm and manufacturing products our core market is tourism, and we have seen that how significantly our sales were affected even in those areas post-COVID. So I can really identify with the findings of Dr. Doherty in our business. So first, we were forced to close the tourism activities in our business for 6 months post-COVID. And we reopened thereafter. Our restaurant is operating only 1 day a week now because our visitor arrivals to Grenada is still so low. Of course, sales plummeted in all departments. And when compared to 2019, we had a decrease of 70% in revenue in our tourism department, 30% in our farm department, and 60% in our manufacturing, like chocolate and the rest. Regarding our human resources, regrettably, we had to release some of our staff especially those working in the tourism department, because we just did not have the resources or the business operations to continue to employ them. We did receive some stimulus assistance here in Grenada for all businesses that are tourism related. The government offered 40% of salary for a period of 3 months. There was also a farm labor support, and we got that assistance for 3 months for 24 persons, and that was a great help for us on the farm. And of course, there was support through the NIS of a $350 flat fee for anyone who was unemployed for the period of 6 months. So with the loss of labor, it really affected our productivity and our efficiency, and it meant that with the shortage of staff, we had to retrain staff so that our staff can become multi-skilled and adaptable. We also had to look at using virtual employees to help us on certain projects and to get some of our work done, and we still use services of virtual employees even at this time. Of course, the loss of revenue affected our cash flow, and we had to take up the bank's offer for the loan deferral program. And Governor, we have to say thank you to you for your initiative on this, because the banks here in Grenada have really rolled out a very reasonable deferral program and have been working with us as business owners here, especially those in the tourism sector, but I think for all businesses, because most businesses have been affected by this. And I must say that fortunately, our bankers have been very understanding and very agreeable, and they've been working with us to navigate through this process. On the positive side, I would say that the pandemic has forced us to become more creative and innovative and to focus on resilience as part of our business strategy for the future. How can we as companies develop the ability to withstand these unpredictable threats and changes, and how to emerge stronger? And that's a challenge for us.
Right. Thank you very much, Shadel. I appreciate your sharing with that level of granularity on what you are experiencing, because I think many businesses can relate to what you just said. So thank you very much for that, and for your resilience. Happy to hear the restaurant is still open at least once a week. Thanks again. Ashton, what say you? How have you been responding to this very disruptive period?
Good morning again, Governor Antoine, and good morning to my fellow panelists, and good morning to those listening on the various platforms, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'll start off by answering the question by saying that if you know Caribbean people, you know we love to fet, right? And this is an industry that in 2014 was worth an estimated $18 million in Antigua and Barbuda alone. What our company is really known for is the ticketing events app, which is the first event management platform developed in the Caribbean region. And our premise was very simple. Purchase tickets to all your favorite events and have it delivered to your phone or digital device instantly. No waiting in lines, just get into your fet and have a great time. And while you're having a good time, you could also feel good that you were also being good to the environment, right? You were doing away with paper tickets. Now, of course, back when we started, what people weren't used to was paying for things online. And if an event host wanted to host an event with online tickets, they didn't have many options. There was PayPal or Eventbrite, but those companies not only put a premium rate on our high-risk region, they would also make you wait 30 days before you could get your money for your ticket sales. Right. So what we did was ensure that our platform would process transactions locally and be able and be available to those event hosts as needed. And so what we managed to do over the course of the last 5 years was sort of change the culture of event goers and online sales in general, right? So in effect, we were sort of somewhat preparing them for COVID, all right? When COVID hit, of course, events and entertainment was one of the first industries to be shut down completely. You know, you can't have large crowds gathering. And so we've been hit really hard. And we had to, close our physical offices to minimize costs. And we've been operating on a skeleton budget for well over a year now. There have been no fetes or entertainment events, at least in Antigua and Barbuda, since March of last year. And while the Promoters Association in Antigua has agreed now, just relatively recently, within the last couple of weeks, while they've agreed with our government to a sort of phased restart of the industry, potentially in July of this year, we're only talking about events with a maximum capacity of 300 persons that have to be fully vaccinated. Now, the event industry is one of those industries where everybody can eat a food, right? And you have the barman, the lightsman, the stage man, the decorators, the makeup artists. This is what really keeps the economy going. And even the clothing stores, the nail techs and hairdressers, because when we as Caribbean people are getting ready to fete, everybody is eating a food, right? But with these limited numbers that we're proposing to reopen with, everybody will start to be eating crackers and cheese, right? And so I started off by saying that in 2014, the events industry was worth an estimated $80 million EC, right? In 2015, when ticketing started selling digital tickets to events, we averaged maybe a modest 20 or 25 tickets per event as we just started. In 2019, just before COVID, we were selling thousands of tickets per event. And in early 2020, we had just started expanding to other islands in the region. And so in 2021 and over the course of the pandemic, I don't think I need to tell you what sort of impact that has had for us at this stage. In terms of the adjustments that we've made, besides starting my own backyard garden, I would have mentioned earlier that our goal as a service provider in the events and entertainment industry was to ensure that our partners would be able to process transactions online without having to pay an external service provider such as PayPal these exorbitant rates and having to wait sometimes as long as 30 days to receive funds.
Yes.
Cash flow, as you can imagine, for these businesses is very important. And so the payment platform that we built and perfected with ticketing over the years put us sort of in a perfect position when COVID started. What we quickly realized was that micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises just like us, in the hardest parts of the crisis, they still needed a way to continue to do business with all the social distancing protocols still in place. So even some big businesses were not equipped with the technical expertise to take advantage of e-commerce in these times. So of course, I believe if you ask any freight forwarder business how they were doing, they would tell you they're doing great because everyone's buying everything on Amazon. Don't need to speak about how well Amazon is doing.
Yes.
Who wants to head into town wearing a mask, sanitizing your hands at every store you enter, the alcohol making your hands dry, and you probably still end up not getting what you want? So we took the opportunity to not only change our business model, but we created an entirely new product. And that's where we decided to launch Fruby, which is a payment platform that makes doing business online across the OECS easy. And so without having any technical expertise, anyone can set up a website, begin selling their products and services in minutes. And even I can now sell some of my produce from my own backyard garden.
Well, that's a wonderful story, that last one in particular, because I've always been a strong advocate for farmers and fishers to be able to do those things. I give the example all the time. A fisher should be able to catch and sell before he lands using his app.